What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay, Emilio in Tennessee. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. Here to talk some Green Bay Packers on this glorious May the 29th. Just we are just a couple days away from hitting June. The pool is open. The sun is shining. Emilio's texting me halfway through the day talking about how thick the air is. We
got receivers catching footballs in Green Bay. It's a beautiful day.
We had a drug bust in my hometown at the Mexican restaurant. It was just, let me tell you, buddy.
Emilio.
Yeah, it was a heck of a day.
The question is, how did Emilio make it back in time?
That's what I was trying to figure.
Hey,
I'm just
crazy.
And I want to say this. I don't want to give a shout out to the establishment. All right, I don't want to give any extra pub there. I won't even say the city, although you guys have heard me say it hundreds of times. But seeing the owner of that restaurant flip the bird at the cameras on his way to the cruiser was something glorious. Anyway, how's everybody doing, boys? How's everybody's day?
Good, man.
Good.
Yeah. You know those electric scooters? They got some pickup on them. So I mean, obviously I can get back in time. It just almost ran out of charge halfway. That was my only worry.
I think Emilio was sitting in the restaurant when the feds kicked the door in, and he got out of there like this.
I don't know. I'm going to take over the world.
Right out the back door. All right. Let's get into it, boys. We had an article. Jacob, you shared this article with me from Dan DePatti. I hope I'm saying that name right? It's the his 5 most important Packers for the 2025 NFL season. We're going to dive into that. We may do a little bit of film breakdown on the back side of the show. We'll see how long we go here. And I really would like to spend a lot of time on these 5 most important Packers. I know Tim started to compile a list of his 5, and it doesn't have to be your, hammered down, solid 100% top 5, Tim. I think it's awesome you're putting a list together. Maybe, Jacob, you put some thought into this too, seeing that you sent the article over. You probably didn't, I'm sure. But we'll dive into all of it and kind of get everybody's take in the chat. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome day out there. See everybody filing in. Thank y'all for being a part of the festivities here. If you would hit like on your way in, we're live on YouTube, X, Facebook, and Rumble. Anything you guys want to hit on before we jump into the 5 most important Packers for the 2025 season, according to Dan DePatti?
Nothing on the top of my mind. What about you guys?
Nothing.
All right.
No. Didn't Daryl say that we signed somebody? Did I see that? Sam Brown Jr. was signed by the Packers.
Yeah, another receiver.
Yeah.
And we didn't need any more, but we picked up another one, right?
Right. And I want to say there was a defensive player too. I could be wrong. I think there was a defensive player that got signed as well. But yeah, you guys know how I am about that. I don't spend a whole lot of time on the, those guys that most likely.
I do.
Squad guy. I know you do, Jacob. I know you do, my man. But if you would you like to add something about him real quick, Jacob, or no?
No, I just think that you know how Doc Holliday in that movie when they're like, "Hell, I got lots of friends." He goes, "I don't." It's like the same when I hear, "I got lots of starters." I go, "I don't. I want the bargain bin guys." Come on, man.
Exactly. All right, man. 2-0 for this drug bust at the Mexican restaurant. Sound like a normal day here in Minnie. There you go.
Put that name in my mouth right there.
Take the cannoli, leave the gun. I think what he meant was take the enchilada, leave the gun. That's what that was. All right, let's dive into it, boys. Dan DePatti's going to be like, I don't want you guys ever mentioning my name on your show. All right. But let's get into it. I just pretty much took his list, compiled it, threw it on our Patreon group, gave him credit for it. I didn't compile my own list. I wanted to get everybody's reaction in the Patreon group on what y'all thought about his list. All right. He just recently wrote an article listing his 5 most important Packers for the 2025 season. Here is his list. I'll start with number 1, and that is Mr. Jordan Love. The write-up says no player is more central to the Packers' success than quarterback Jordan Love. In 2024, his second year as a starter, Love displayed flashes of elite play, but was hampered by injuries and inconsistent support from a young receiving core. If we get time to break down a little tape, we're going to debunk a lot of Jaden Reed hate at the end of this show. We'll see if we got time. Despite ranking among the top 10 in metrics like EPA per play, his decision-making, footwork, and ball placement need refinement. Love's reluctance to scramble, partly due to injury, also limited his impact. if he can stay healthy, harness his mobility, and build on the potential in year 3, Love could unlock the full potential of Green Bay's offense. There's not a whole lot there. Matter of fact, not much there at all that I disagree with. I thought this was very, very well said, Jacob. Since this was your idea, let's get your take right off the bat here, man. I love that he mentioned the injuries because it played a huge role. I love that he also mentioned the fact that Jordan Love still showed flashes of elite play from time to time.
Yeah, and when I brought this article to your guys' attention, I kind of said, let's maybe compile our own top 5, really top 4, because I feel like everybody's going to have Jordan Love. It almost is without question. And it has to be. It's like a filler spot, especially like you said, with Love coming off of maybe some people would say not as great a year as they would have wanted. Obviously, there was multiple injuries. He's got the leg injury, the groin injury. Remember that didn't his elbow get like randomly tapped too in the middle of one of the games, like super bad? I think that he did pretty good considering all of those scenarios and adversity they had to deal with. And that big if, it's always an if he can stay healthy, harness his mobility, and build on this potential in year 3, Love could unlock full potential. I really do believe that. And it's a weird thing because as much as I do believe Jordan Love is stand down the most important person for this offense and for this team, I have a weird, quiet confidence that if the worst scenario happens, that Malik Willis is definitely a serviceable quarterback. But even with that, I don't think you can say that Jordan Love's not by far the most important part of this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's stamped himself at number 1 on my importance list with, the greatest quote of all time. Honestly,
I don't listen too much Taylor Swift.
I mean, like how do you top that? I mean, he's already reached his full potential, in my opinion, right there. So, no, but all jokes aside, yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Jacob. Like J Money's got to be number 1 on your list. This is QB1 with 100% health. For all intents and purposes going into this year. So it's all in front of him, and we just got to see him do what he does. I mean, I don't disagree with any of these points in this article so far, and that's why I made the comment. I mean, it's pretty much a given. You're going to put J Money on your list if you're putting top 5 most important Packers. If Jordan Love's not on that list, then you probably don't know ball. Let's just be real. He's got to have a spot on this list. So we'll see what happens this year for sure.
Yeah, right. Like in that little interview clip of him, 6 years there, 3 years as a starter. I mean, chasing a Super Bowl is the goal. That's all that we want to talk about. That's bring Lombardi home. That's the idea, and it 100% starts with J Love. Get him 100% back, and just pedal to the metal at this point.
Yeah, I think the injuries played a very, very big role. He finished 12th in passer rating at a 96.7, right behind Jaden Daniels. Everybody talks like Jaden Daniels had this phenomenal year, and for a rookie, absolutely. But again, Jaden Daniels finished with a 100.1 passer rating. Jordan Love finished right behind him with a 96.7. Jaden Daniels finished with 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Jordan Love had 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The reason I get excited over that is because the fact that he did that while playing hurt pretty much all year long, right? When you go to yards per attempt, Jordan Love finished 5th, actually tied for 4th in the league with Jalen Hurts, 8 yards per attempt. Completion percentage obviously took a dip down to 63.1% according to NFL Pro. And then when you look at EPA per dropback, which is a great measure, a great metric to kind of dive into, he's 13th at a plus 0.07. Right behind Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and then above them, just by, minute amount of points, Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. So he's right there, even with the injury. He's right there on the cusp of being a top 10 quarterback, depending on what metric you want to look at. The big thing I want to see Jordan Love do this year, and we've been pretty vocal about it, is that 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I want to see him consistently stay in the 30 touchdown column, I guess you could say, at that mark, while reducing it to single-digit interceptions. If he finished with 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year, we talked about the key games that we lost because of the turnover differential and more specifically throwing interceptions. I think this team probably wins a couple more games last year. And when it comes to touchdown passes, he finished 10th in the league with 25, right behind Patrick Mahomes, who had 26. Josh Allen had 28. Guys, Josh Allen was the MVP. Now, I know he's got a rushing ability as well, and probably the best running quarterback that's not named Lamar Jackson in the entire league. Josh Allen finished 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Jordan Love finished 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and he couldn't run, right? Above him was Aaron Rodgers with 28 and 11 interceptions. Bo Nix, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Sam Darnold, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Jared Goff, 37 and 12. Lamar Jackson last year, how did he not win the MVP? Can somebody help me here?
Yeah.
41 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions.
Dude, what?
With like 1,000 yards rushing at the same time, or like 900 yards rushing.
We know who decides. We know who decides the MVP results, though, right? So I think we got our answer.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Joe Burrow, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, with Joe Burrow throwing for 4,918 yards. What a year, man.
Wow.
What a year for him. So, again, the point there is Jordan Love battling 3 injuries, pretty much right on the cusp of being the top 10 quarterback. Some would say he is a top 10, depending on which metric you would look at.
I think that's a great point, Clayton, because that's the bar that Aaron Rodgers has set, in recent memory here in Green Bay, right? Like you said, try to be over 30 in the tutter category and try and be below 10 in your picks. Keep that TD to INT ratio, nice and wide and more tutters than picks. And, we have to remember Jordan developed his first few years behind Aaron Rodgers. He's seen that. He understands, seeing back-to-back MVP seasons and, elite level quarterbacking, what that looks like. And he certainly possesses all the attributes to be able to do that. And if not, meet the level that Aaron Rodgers has set as a standard here, he can probably exceed it if he really plays his cards right and continues to improve. So I don't think there's any reason to think that Jay Money's not going to take another huge step this year.
Yeah. CJN in the chat says, guys, 3 injuries from Love last year, and he still balled out. Does anyone think he isn't that guy? I've been pretty vocal. I think he's that guy. I think he is your franchise quarterback. I really do.
I've been saying that since 2020. Let's go.
So if he takes the step that we think he can, and I'm going to put a write-up together over on our Patreon group here real soon. I want to compare Aaron Rodgers' first 2 years statistics to Jordan Love's first 2 years, and then look at Aaron Rodgers' third year and kind of project, okay, again, we're not saying Jordan Love has got to play like Aaron Rodgers to live up to the expectations. That's an extremely high bar. If I remember correctly, his third year as a starter, too, would have been the Super Bowl year. So just saying, to kind of draw a comparison, I think you would be pleasantly surprised at just how well Jordan's played compared to one of the all-time greats in Aaron Rodgers. So anything else you guys want to add to the Jordan Love talk here on this list?
I would just argue that Aaron Rodgers came into a way better, well-rounded team than Jordan Love did as well, that had multiple weapons and very kind of set veterans that were leaders. And I think Love had to kind of work with a bunch of patched together type leadership roles and guys that were very young, hadn't came into their own. And then just to highlight what Ron says here, he says Jordan had 6 interceptions that could be considered all his fault. That's if everyone was running the right routes on 5 of those 6. I think he's trying to say that almost half of them were not his fault, which I would agree with. And if you were to plug and play those types of numbers, maybe give him a few more tuds, he's right there in the thick of things.
Yeah, I think it's a solid point for sure. All right, let's move it along to number 2 on this list, and that's Rashan Gary. A dominant pass rush is often a hallmark. Oh, I'm going to say this. This made me think of this real quick, Jacob. I'm sorry. You mentioned the receivers that Aaron had, right? They also had the number 1 defense in the league the year they won the Super Bowl. So just keep that in mind. So very, very important little note there as well. Rashan Gary, a dominant pass rush is often the hallmark of Super Bowl champions, and Rashan Gary is the linchpin of Green Bay's defensive front. In 2024, Gary excelled as a run defender but struggled to consistently pressure quarterbacks. Remember that. Partly due to his transition from a 3-4 to a 4-3 scheme. The Packers' minimal offseason additions to the pass rush signal confidence in Gary's ability to rebound. With a full year in the new system and improved coaching, Gary must deliver on his significant contract and elevate the defense to elite status. Now, check this out. What do you think, without looking at the stats, and I've got them right here, what do you think TJ Watt's pressure percentage was last year? Quarterback pressure percentage, if you just had to guess.
12.
14.
12, 14, 10. What do you think the guess would be, man?
Oh, we're doing prices right. I'll go 13.
His quarterback pressure percentage, TJ Watts last year, 9.3%.
Wow.
Boy.
Guess what Rashan Gary's was?
14.
13. It was 13.4%.
Oh.
You know, you're thinking, well, that's just 1 year, Clayton. That's just 1 year. Guess what Rashan Gary's pressure percentage was in 2023?
I've got a wild guess. I'm going to go ahead and just take a shot in the dark and say
65%.
65%. That's what Damn, I wish. 17.4% was his pressure rate in 2023. His pressure rate in 2022, 19%. That's Rashan Gary's quarterback pressure percentage. So, again, he had a higher quarterback pressure percentage than TJ Watt last year. Now, immediately, the argument becomes, yeah, okay, I got you, but what was his by the way, TJ Watt in 2023 quarterback pressure percentage, 13.7%. Gary has, and then in 2022, TJ Watt's pressure percentage, 11.6%. Rashan Gary over the last 3 years has had a higher quarterback pressure percentage than TJ Watt every single year. Now, the argument goes, yeah, but what about sacks, Clayton? I'm glad you asked. TJ Watt last year had 11 and a half sacks. You know how many pass rush snaps he had, though? 529. 529 pass rush snaps. Guess how many Rashan Gary had last year, finishing with his 7.5 sacks that led the Packers? Only 389.
Wow.
Yeah. And the year before is TJ Watt's big year, right, where he finished with, what was it, 19 sacks? Mm-hmm. Only 13.7%. And I say only. That's a good – anything over 10 is considered really good, right? 19 sacks that year. But once again, he had 512 pass rush attempts. Guys, he's playing 85% of the snaps, as where Rashan Gary is only playing – play time 58.4%. He's playing literally 20% more snaps. So you want to know why Rashan Gary's sack total stays low? It's the rotation that we talk about in the pass rush. Because if you tack on another 20%, Rashan Gary's probably got 12, 13 sacks. You see what I'm saying? So I just wanted to point that out there. And again, it doesn't mean that Rashan Gary played his best football last year. I think he played one of his worst seasons. But with that being said, to pretend like it was a bad year, it was not a bad year for Rashan Gary, especially seeing how he led the team in run stops as well. So, but get off my soapbox. Just want to point that out because I'm like, what are we even doing here? Let me go look at this real quick, right? Because again, if he, let's say he gets 3 or 4 more sacks, that probably means you may dip down 1 or 2 interceptions and lose a turnover for another game, right?
I was just going to say, what's more important to you as a fan? Is it takeaways or is it sacks? I would gladly give up, a couple sacks, even if they are, key moments where we need to get home and we don't. But if we're continuing to get takeaways and turnovers, man, I'll take it all day. I don't care about the sack percentage. I don't.
In fact, looking at his stats, this is actually basically his second best year of his career. In 2021, he played 17 games with 51 total tackles, 31 solo, 20 assists, 11 tackles for loss, 11 and a half sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Last year, 18 games, 50 total tackles, so 1 less, 28 solo, 3 less there, 22 assisted, 2 less there, and 10 tackles for loss, 1 less, with sacks of 8.5. So 3 less sacks and still had a forced fumble. So you're saying that he had a terrible year because he had 3 less sacks and, in fact, was just maybe a tackle off and, less time with the reps there. So I think he's going to tear it up.
He does this too, Emilio, while drawing the most attention, the most double teams of anyone else on that team, other than the prefab touch spy double team that Kenny Clark kept engaging in last year, right? And that was kind of, you could tell that was somewhat schemed up by Hafley putting him in at that 1 tech in the nickel 4-2-5. Darryl also makes a great point for those who don't know. TJ Watt's still waiting for the front office to give him that extension or heads up. So that's the other thing. He's holding out right now of minicamp because he wants a new contract. Rashan Gary's in there getting to work in. Again, I'm not saying Rashan Gary is a better player than TJ Watt, but to sit here and pretend like TJ Watt is just light years ahead of Rashan Gary, I don't know what you're looking at.
I think arguably Rashan's got the higher ceiling right now at this point in their careers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think no disrespect to TJ Watt, the guy's a monster, but
Right.
I think Rashan's got a couple more premier years in him as opposed to TJ Watt, who's probably dwindling down his career a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Next 3 to 5 years, probably.
Yeah. Robert Bertana says Rashan Gary all around solid pass rusher and can stop the run. I think that's very, very fair to say he's a solid pass rusher. Maybe I would put him a little higher than just a solid pass rusher. But you're right, man. There's some guys that just run themselves out of the play. That's something Gary doesn't do, for sure. So, Jacob, what do you think about all this, man? What are we missing here with Rashan Gary? And again, he's not knocking him, and I think Gary should be on the list. Like if he plays even better than he did last year, watch out for this defense.
Yep.
This was a tough one for me because Gary did not make my top 5, and I think if you hear my top 5, you'd understand that reasoning. But I just feel like he's been really solid player, but I don't think he's a difference maker in the way that maybe like a Myles Garrett would be, or a Von Miller in his prime, or one of those types of guys where it's like teams, Khalil Mack, they know where he's going to be. They're worried about which way he's going to go. They're worried if he's going to switch sides. I mean, I think that I can see, like Tim said, that his ability to have a ceiling type year is still way out there. I think that he could absolutely explode and all of a sudden have like a 10 plus, 15 plus sack season. I just think it's really tough because the bottom line is he just doesn't get the snaps. The number of snaps just aren't there for him as they are for most other pass rushers, and expecting him to do more with less snaps is just not realistic. For that reason, I left him off my top 5.
That's fair. And that's not an indictment on Rashan. That's an indictment on the system that he's in, right? We talk about the hockey line approach, rotational type of situation. So I agree with that, Jacob. I think that's a great point. It's not so much to say about Rashan. It's just how we're utilizing him and his role on this defense.
Yep.
Yeah. And Jacob mentioned people like Myles Garrett, right? 18.6 quarterback pressure percentage last year. And again, Gary's best year was in 2022 where he was at 19%. So that's how good Gary was when they gave him that contract. So, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. People, they should have never gave him that deal. It's like he was doing crazy things that season for sure. So, all right. Anybody else got anything they want to add to the Rashan Gary section here? Anything at all? Good? All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, go ahead, Jake.
I would just quick say, too, that on the back end, like, again, I referenced that Ryan's podcast where he looked at the pass rush in the back 8 games or whatever it was. Rashan Gary's numbers, I think, were like, again, at like 16 or 17%, if not higher.
Mm-hmm. Greg Rice says, how many snaps? I'm going to need you to read this one for me, Tim. Can you read that for me real quick? You ain't got to turn your camera on, bub.
Oh, no, I see it. It says, how many snaps does Max Crosby get in a game compared to Rashan Gary? That's how it's pronounced, Max Crosby.
See if I can find Max real quick. I think was he technically a linebacker? I hate that they do this. I don't know why people.
I think they had Crosby as an edge, right?
Yeah.
Is he listed as an edge or a D end or?
It's 2025 and we still got people saying defensive line and linebacker as opposed to just edge defender. It drives me crazy. Let me. I got to pull this up because I got to know what Max Crosby had here. Let's see. He's not listed as a linebacker. So defensive line, Max Crosby, 96.3% of the snaps last year.
Oh,
and he finished with 7.5 sacks and a 12% pressure rate.
And then when he got done, he took out the trash, he painted the fence, he closed up the gate, parked the cars. I mean, that guy does everything for the Raiders for sure. Wow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Gary, I remember doing that on Twitter too. I just put no names, just production. Who would you rather have? It was hands down, all player one. All right, you just picked Rashan Gary over Max Crosby. Oh, that can't be right. Okay, go check it yourself. It's right there. Free for everyone to see. So anyway, all right, let's move along to the next one. He has on this list, I know some of you guys may not have liked this. I thought it was kind of cool that he listed DeMarcus Covington, the new defensive line coach. New defensive line coach DeMarcus Covington faces the critical task, reviving Green Bay's pass rush. The Packers' decision to add only a 4th-round pick to the defensive line in the offseason suggests they believe last year's struggles were coaching-related, not a personnel issue. Covington's challenge is to maximize Rashan Gary and unlock the potential of Lucas Van Ness, returning the unit to its top 10 DVOA. You guys know I absolutely despise that. But anyway, from 2 years ago, his success could transform the defense into a championship caliber group, which I think they're currently there, to be honest with you. What if Covington does come in and all of a sudden LVN just cranks it up? How cool would that be? And I'm going to go pull LVN's numbers just because I'm curious now. But Emilio, you start us off this time. And what do you think about Covington making this list here? I know we talked about him a little bit this offseason.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think that you bring in a guy with a different take, different learning tree, and learned under Bill Belichick, one of the greats. And I'm sure he picked up a lot, being able to bounce that sort of information off of each other. I'm just excited to bring that sort of mentality in here. You got Matt LaFleur, you got Jeff Hafley, but obviously these guys are working with their position coaches more than they probably are working specifically with Hafley or Matt individually. So you're depending on these guys. I think that when you're drafting players and things like that, you got to know who your coaching staff is as well. I think Bucky and DJ talk about that a lot. Like, if you're going to pick a guy that maybe has all the talent in the world, but there's no way your coaches are going to be able to wrangle him, or there's no way they're actually going to be able to get that transferred into, his game. I think that's a problem. Bringing in a guy like DeMarcus, I really think opens up the opportunity for our D-line to, really take off this year. And having a couple of guys that are veterans that, care about it, want to work to get better, bringing those young guys along too, I think it'll really work out.
You know what's two really cool things, Tim, that I didn't know until I can't remember what podcast. They all blend together. I forgive me for not giving him a Covington, I believe, has never had a first-round draft pick on any of the teams that he's coached, which now he's got loads of them. And 4 on the line alone. Okay, that's pretty dope. And so he also, when he was working for Belichick or the Patriots at that time, and Belichick left, I believe it was Gerard Mayo's first stint. He was the defensive line coach there. But when he was still a coach under Belichick, they would actually go to Boston College and have like little mini clinics together and see, hey, what are you thinking? This is what we're thinking. What is your play? So in theory, Hafley / some of these coaches, Covington, even guys going back to like Isaiah McDermott, they could have all kind of had knowledge of each other, worked with each other, grown relationships, gotten on the same page. I think that's something that could be a little bit underrated as to how that coaching change could be.
I agree. From new setting, but familiar faces, right? That's like, you go to a new town or start a new job or something, and lo and behold, you bump into someone that you met along the way, and you're in a new place, but you're working together. I mean, I think it's awesome. And I think it's fair too. Like, I kind of made a joke like, oh, I see we got a coach here on the list, but technically if you look at the article, it's the top 5 most important Packers. And if you're a coach, you're a Packer. So I think this is fair. And I think of all the specific position coaches that we have, I think Coach Covington is probably the X factor when it comes to this defense for sure this year. And I like him. I think, I like Coach Reb. You guys know that. You can check my training camp videos from last year with Coach Reb working with the D-line group and using choice vocabulary at times. But I think Coach Covington is kind of like a hybrid. I think he can bring that fire or keep the piss hot, as we say, when he needs to. But I think he's a very technical coach and stresses fundamentals, understands the game. And it's going to be really cool, to Jacob's point, to see him come into this Green Bay locker room and just have, the talent pool that he has to play with. It's going to be awesome. And then, you got Coach Hafley at the helm. These two are going to work well together. It's going to be awesome. And then we got, my guy, my favorite, Coach Ansley on the back end with the passing game coordination. So I feel really good about this defense this year.
Yeah, Covington, former defensive coordinator, Ansley, former defensive coordinator. I mean, there's so much, I don't know if talent's the right word, so much experience on this coaching staff. And what Jacob said there about them having that Boston College connection, this and that. We had Coach Chris Haddad on the show to talk a little Jeff Hafley because he studied under Hafley with some of the coaching clinics. For those of you who don't know, Chris Haddad comes from just a football family. They've won multiple national awards for coaching staffs at the high school level. And I think he was a former receiver DB, and that's what he coaches. And he came in and just kind of said, here's what to expect with Coach Hafley and how he is kind of a DB whisperer type thing. So just want to point that out, that there was a big connection there, and he would go to those coaching clinics. He's actually located very, very close to Foxborough, he being Coach Haddad. I want to say 20, 30 minutes outside of Foxborough. So really, really cool connection there. Now, back to LVN, since he was mentioned here. Last year, and again, that 10% marks what we talk about. Like if you finish over 10% in pressure, quarterback pressure percentage, pretty good year. LVN finished the season 11.2% while only playing 39% of the snaps. 39% of the snaps. So if you were to look at strictly edge defenders from last year's team, he would have the third highest rated pressure percentage behind Rashan Gary and Brenton Cox Jr. Brenton Cox Jr. had 13.7%, finishing with 4 sacks as well. So, and Brenton Cox Jr. played 35.9% of the snaps. So him and LVN very, very close in terms of snap count. Pretty cool there. So I think you're going to see LVN take a step. And again, the people that everybody fell in love with, the guy everybody fell in love with this year was our boy, what was his name, out of Cincinnati? Who I'm drawing a blank here. Edge defender that everybody wanted to trade for, sack leader.
Trey Hendrickson.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't until his third year that he broke out. People went back, comped the numbers. LVN has been more productive than Trey Hendrickson in his first 2 years in the league. So does it mean LVN is going to be as good of a pass rusher as him? What it means is pump your brakes. Let's not run him out of town like we tried to do Devontae Adams his first 2 years in the league. So moving on to number 4 on the list is Elgton Jenkins. The Packers' offensive line was a weak point in 2024, particularly at center, where Josh Myers underperformed. Green Bay addressed this by signing Aaron Banks and drafting Anthony Belton, but did not replace Myers directly. Enter Elgton Jenkins, whose versatility across 4 offensive line positions makes him a prime candidate to shift to center, where he played in college. Despite a minor off-field incident, I think we talked about that, he just wanted a discount. He wanted a refund. That's all he wanted was a refund. And ongoing contract discussions due to the lower pay at center, Jenkins' potential move could significantly strengthen the line. If he and the team resolve these issues, Jenkins, alongside a healthy Jordan Morgan, could solidify the front. I can't think of a year where I've been more excited to follow camp and the camp updates with the offensive line than this year. Emilio, what do you think about this Elgton Jenkins making the list? I worry, man. I worry that this is going to carry into training camp. I pray to sweet baby Jesus it doesn't, because if we got Elgton Jenkins at center, I think our offensive line is going to take a huge step forward.
Yeah, and I think, like we were talking earlier, I think it needs to get done before the middle of June, before it really starts to go quiet over there, and let's get this taken care of before they all kind of go on break and get that quick reset before camp. But, yeah, Elgton Jenkins is going to be a key. He's the one planning on starting to play every time. If not, it's going to be Monk. I don't think we've seen enough from him. I don't think Matt LaFleur's ready to base his offense on a rookie center, or not a rookie center, but a first-year center starting like that. So I think that that really is going to be a huge piece. Maybe the Packers got themselves in a pickle paying Banks and all that, but I think that they can be fair enough to Elgton and still get this taken care of so that everyone's happy. But absolutely, you're going from where the ball's starting to the most important player that we have on this list at number 1. I think he has to be on there.
Yeah. I struggled with this one as well. I had to take Jenkins off my top 5 simply because the distraction. And I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I almost am team Elgton as far as what they're trying to force him to do. But when I looked along that offensive line, unfortunately, I don't see Elgton Jenkins as an outspoken leader as much as I'd like to. And I see more of like a Zach Tom being more of that, like, hey, that's the guy that's going to be filling the roles. Zach Tom didn't make my top 5 either. I'm just saying.
Jacob, who did you put on your? Did you even write any names down on this top 5?
Brenton Cox Jr., Brenton Cox Jr.
It's like,
think about it. Who are the 5 best rush of all time?
Seriously, put Jay Love on there and just puts an arrow pointing down. Just 1 through 5 is Jay Love.
Well, I don't want to ruin the
suspense of who's
suspense.
On this list. It better be Travis Glover, Brenton Cox.
Get out of here. I don't know. I expect him to be more of a team guy. I would expect him to be more of a leader, and I just haven't gotten the expectations out of him. I attribute him to more of the type of feelings I have towards Kenny Clark, where it's like, hey man, we pay you and we have so much faith in you and we prop you up as if you're like one of the best guys on our team, and I just don't consistently see that type of payout, I guess is my gripe.
Got it. Tim, you got anything to add, brother?
Nothing that I don't think we've covered. I'm looking at my list because I was kind of going back and forth between Big E and Zach Tom as far as O linemen. And I think Jacob's right. I think, at the end of the day, it's Zach Tom. Zach Tom's probably the most valuable offensive lineman on this team, arguably. I think you can debate it, but I think it's pretty close. That being said, though, I also agree with Jacob's point that, maybe Elton's not the most vocal rah-rah, bring the locker room together kind of leader. He's more of a, hey, I go out and do my job. You guys do your job. We'll all do our job together and win ball games kind of guy, lead by example. But at the end of the day, your center is a valuable piece of this O-line. We talk about those positions of importance. So my only question is beyond Big E, if we get this sorted out and, everything works like it should, if he goes down for some reason, we're shuffling the line. We're going to move somebody into that position, and it could affect another position. I mean, I look at the we were on the what was that site the other day? Our Lads way too early depth chart. Mm-hmm. And you look at center, it's Elgton Jenkins, Jacob Monk, and Trey Hill, according to them right now. And I don't know if Trey Hill or Jacob Monk would be my second choice at backup center. I think I'd almost rather see Sean Ryan. Mm-hmm. I think I'd almost rather see, possibly moving Zach Tom there and maybe moving, a Jordan Morgan to right tackle or something in a pinch. But the point I'm trying to make is I don't think we should gloss over the fact that, it sounds like a plug and play option here. We move on from Josh Myers. You move Big E over to center. You load up at guard and tackle. We're all good. Okay, well, if things with Big E don't pan out or, something goes sideways, what is the answer? Because when it comes to QB1, I've said this for a number of years. I want to see him get his Frank Winters or get his center of choice with some consistency that he can build, a relationship with, and those guys can, without even speaking, they know what's going on with that offense. And I think, Elgton Jenkins, he's at 30 right now. He's looking to get some contractual security here as he moves into a new role. I don't know, even if this does end up great, how long-term of a solution that is for us at center. So I think Big E is very important based on what, the direction that, we're looking at sending him in with this team. But I do have a question mark at center beyond Elgton Jenkins.
Yeah. And I will say this, I know Eric Sutherland bring up get his Scott Wells.
There you go.
Aaron didn't have Scott Wells for that long, though.
Like, what about Corey? Was Corey Lindsley a center?
He was.
I was going to say, I think Corey Lindsley was Aaron's center longer than Scott Wells, right?
Probably would have been, but even Corey Lindsley, they refused to pay, and they moved right on to Josh Myers, and that was, it's just like.
And Corey Lindsley, if I'm not mistaken, another guard converted to center, correct?
I think so.
Didn't he start as a guard?
I'm not sure. I want to say Corey Lindsley played center at Ohio State.
Actually, I was going to say Ohio State. We've just been cranking through Ohio State centers, man.
And I remember when I first started doing the pod, I kept pointing out, like, man, I think center is more important than the Packers give it credit for, because you look up at the great teams, they have great centers. The Eagles for so long was Jason Kelce, right? And Jason Kelce helped them. I mean, they included Jason Kelce on the drafting of his replacement, and he handpicked for the Eagles. Here's the dude you want. He worked with him, molded him into the center.
Yep. Who played guard? I'm pretty sure they had him at guard, getting reps next to the center, so that they were getting him used to it.
Yep. And then, of course, Kansas City. How many championships they've won, and they got Creed Humphrey. And again, that's not to continue to dog on Goody for taking Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey. You're going to miss on picks, but when you miss, damn, don't wait 4 years to admit it. Like it's that important. That's why I got so excited about Elgton Jenkins. I personally think Elgton Jenkins will be the best center the Packers have had since Corey Lindsley.
Yeah, I would agree.
Do you guys remember the stint where I see people in here bringing up Jeff Saturday? Remember when Saturday came over to the Packers, played terribly, and then won the Pro Bowl? Remember, he went to the
benched.
Pro Bowl that year.
He got benched and still made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, dude.
That's when everybody was like, all right, this Pro Bowl thing, this probably ain't the real deal. So, but yeah, Tim, to say one more thing too, when you said, Trey Hill, there's no way the Packers have Trey Hill over Sean Ryan or maybe even Zach Tom. I personally think, let's say Elgton Jenkins does not play for the Packers. I don't even want to think about it. Let's just say it happens. It's going to be probably a two-man training camp race between Jacob Monk and Sean Ryan. And if neither of them prove they can play center, they would probably kick Zach Tom to center and then put, Belton at right tackle, maybe Jordan Morgan at right, something like that before they would go with Trey Hill at center.
I agree. 100%. Because you can trust Sean Ryan at right guard in a pinch.
Yep, exactly.
For sure.
So, all right, let's see here. Dave's MX6 says J.C. Treader was the center but got injured and was replaced.
That's what I was thinking.
That's right. And
Treader was the convert.
I like
right?
Treader
a guard and then he became a center.
Where did J.C. Treader play?
Maybe that's what I'm thinking because I know you're right. Corey Lindsey was a center in college.
He went on to play a pretty decent career, I thought.
I'm trying to think of where he played college ball because if he was Ohio State, that's going to be hilarious. Surely he wasn't, right?
All right, chat. Where'd J.C. Treader go to college?
Do you want to know where he went to school?
Oh,
Jacob?
I see it.
Don't even.
Go ahead, man.
Cornell University. Ever heard of
it? It really was.
Here comes the trouble.
I remember why they moved on from J.C. Treader. They didn't say it, the quiet part out loud, thank God. But he became a huge players rep. And it was as soon as he became that, I think he was the union president or the players representative president or whatever that title is. Packers are like, yeah, let's get his ass out of this locker room as soon as possible. It's exactly what happened there. All right. Moving on. Anything else on offensive line, guys? Anything at all?
No.
All right. Let's move it along to number 5. This one's pretty cool, man. Dontavion Wicks. The Packers wide receiver group disappointed in 2024 with Christian Watson sidelined with an ACL injury, Romeo Doubs facing suspensions and concussions, and both Jaden Reed and Dontavion Wicks struggling with drops. Wicks, however, stands out for his ability to get open thanks to his size, route running, and speed. His biggest issue, catching the ball, must be addressed to capitalize on Green Bay's need for separation in the passing game. If Wicks can emulate early career Devontae Adams and step up, he could become a key weapon. Failure to do so may see him replaced given the team's draft investments. And I know this is about Dontavion Wicks, and I don't want to steer it too far away from it, but seeing Savion Williams at OTAs yesterday and how smooth he looked out of his breaks, I was like, boy, because when you turn on the tape in college, you see him run a route and you go, how did he not have more numbers? And then you dig deeper into the tape, you realize, oh, okay, they were just throwing him all over the place, backfield, wildcat quarterback, all over. This dude is a good route runner. I'm not saying he's Wicks level route running, but Savion might surprise people. Watch Matthew Golden be the biggest bust in Packers history, and Savion Williams be a damn Hall of Famer. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Dude, I can both be Hall of Famers. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Let's go.
I honestly think I don't want to say anything bad about Golden because obviously he's a Packer and I'm going to have his back completely. I'll just say that I was not intrigued. One, I didn't think it would be a possibility for him to fall, but after the draft was done, dude, when I watched Savion Williams, and again, like you said, Clay, he is so multifaceted, and I hate when people label him he's a gadget player like Cordarrelle Patterson. No, he's not. Cordarrelle Patterson did not have the type of bona fides and the route running and the skills. Do you watch this guy catch the ball, like contested catches, going up like I'm talking 40 plus vert? I guarantee you that when the tape is on, that guy can jump out of the stadium. And again, the Wildcat, some of the way he was able to run, he doesn't look like a typical wide receiver that's getting an end around or anything like that. The dude looks like he's a running back that is 6'4". It's just, it's crazy. I'm excited. I think that if I had to put money on it, I'd put the money that he has a better career than Golden.
And it's funny, Emilio, because this is supposed to be about Dontavion Wicks, and we're kind of talking about Savion and how excited we are about the wide receiver room. And it's like, do you think Wicks doesn't? I mean, he's not watching this show, I promise you that. But do you think he doesn't realize? Oh, yeah, I better play my best ball this year.
Well, let's not forget he's been in the lab cooking for the last 6 months. It's never stopped for him. I think arguably Tay Wicks, other than Christian Watson coming off an injury, and then these rookies that we have, I think Tay Wicks might be the hungriest wideout we have on this team.
I think it's a great point, Tim, because you heard Bird say it like, yeah, there was already talk in the building that we were going to get another wide receiver, right? So they already knew that was going to happen. They knew that they were bringing in competition before the draft even started. So I'm sure he talked to Bird, he talked to, Christian, Dobbs, all them. And I think it's, dude, you got to put up or shut up. You got to just put your best foot out there. It's going to be the offensive line all over. Our best 5 are going to be out there. The best 5 are going to play. We're not running 5 wide anymore. That's not our offense. I think that, we could, potentially, if we have that kind of wide receiver core, imagine, J Love going out and setting up 5 wide. That'd be a lot of fun, but I don't see it happening all the time. And it's not like we can be reliant on getting reps just because, you're the 5th wide receiver down there. You really got to step up and show up.
I think that's a big reason why, like Clayton mentioned, Goody with, grabbing these young receivers and being able to keep that pocketbook light, right? Keep your salary cap light, keep your guaranteed money light down the road. But I also think it speaks to the fact that, much like we've done with the quarterback position over, I don't know, the last 2+ decades here, is you're constantly bringing in top tier draft picks and you're making everyone in that room better. I mean, like to your point, Emilio, that's a good problem to have. Is we just basically put these guys, Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, Scoot when he gets back. These guys are all on notice. You don't think they know that there's young, hungry, talented wide receivers on this depth chart? So I think it's going to make our offense that much better. And, if Tay Wicks steps up and really, makes another huge step in his young career, man, it's going to make us that much more dynamic, I think.
Well, I know one thing, that when some of the older dancers aren't performing at the club, we bring in a couple of young bucks and all of a sudden them boys are up and down that pole like you never believe.
Mm-hmm. All of a sudden that hip.
You think God never farted?
All right. That's a hell of a way to end hour 1, but that's going to do it. For those of you listening on the pod, we're going to continue this list with the honorable mentions and get the guys list here in not the guys on the poll list, but the guys list of their top 5. Yeah, we'll see you on the other side. Appreciate you.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2. Not sure why you came, but we appreciate you being here. Let's move on to honorable mentions. So we got 3 on this list here. Matthew Golden, the rookie speed, could stretch defenses, opening up the offense, much like Watson did when healthy. Edgerrin Cooper at linebacker, after a strong finish to 2024. Cooper's continued growth could elevate the defense to new heights. Jair Alexander, if Alexander resolves his contract situation and stays healthy, his return could be a massive boost to the secondary. I don't know if you guys seen his Instagram story last night, but it was him on a boat, his arms crossed, looking all tough. He looks swole. I just want to say that. My man looks like he put on about, 8 or 9 pounds of muscle. And it had the most distorted looking dollars falling around him as well. Everybody's going, what's this mean? Is the deal done? Is he wanting more money? So we're in the cryptic Instagram story phase of this whole thing. But there's your 3 honorable mentions. Let's go around the horn here with it real quick. We'll start with you this time. Jacob, what do you think about that list there? Golden, Cooper, and Alexander. And then we're going to get everybody's list here in a second.
Yes, I will keep the suspense going, and I'll tell you that one of those players is on my list. And we'll get to that in a second here.
Emilio looks so intrigued. Look at it.
No, honestly, I didn't even know there was homework, so I didn't even make a list. I saw Jacob sent the article earlier, and I was just like, you know what?
Did you see the follow-up?
Like you do homework even when you know there's homework.
Yeah.
Emilio, you were just trying to make it out of that restaurant this afternoon.
I had no time to be reading an article that Jacob sent. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see it.
Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I mean, I don't think that Golden's going to punch into the league and absolutely demand that he forces that wide receiver room to take notice. Do I hope it happens? Sure, because that must mean that he's a one hell of a player. But I just don't think Matt LaFleur is the type of coach that immediately is going to just take away snaps from guys like Dobbs, like Jaden for sure, even guys like Wicks. So I think that this year is going to be a lot of them, him and Savion getting their feet wet, learning the system, plug and play in here and there in certain situations, maybe have certain roles that they play. And then obviously, God forbid, if we have injuries, then I think they maybe splash onto the scene a little bit. I just think that this may be more of a learning redshirt year for Mr. Golden. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I will say this, though. I liked what I've seen from Matt Golden, just from the little bit of micro underwear Olympics, right? OTA is just starting, but the way that he approaches that position, to me, mimics the same things we've seen with the greats of all time. Guys that attack the football when it's in the air. They're not waiting for the ball to come to their hands. You can watch a few reps and you just see, Matthew Golden is just absolutely snatching that ball out of the air and then keeping it away from the body as he's coming back to the ground, turning upfield. I look at his routes. He wastes absolutely zero motion when running a route. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that, stays on the stem of the route without wasting a step. It's Matthew Golden. So I think he deserves to be an honorable mention on this list. He almost made my top 5 list, but I agree with the sentiment. Honorable mention for sure.
Emilio, I don't know what you're looking at your phone for over there.
Yeah, I'm excited for all three. I'm excited for all three of these guys. I really am. Ja, I really just want him back. Just square this thing away and let's move on. Just win a Super Bowl. We'll figure it out next year. Because
tell you, Pack is back.
You heard it from a fan right here.
Thank you, Tim. And that's all it's about. Bring him back.
All right. Well, let's drop this down for just a second. Did everybody get their take in here? Are we good? We feel good about this?
Yes.
Let's take a break from it before we get your all's list. And I want to show you guys what I just sent the guys. Facebook blew up the day this afternoon when that restaurant got hit. All right. Shout out to the restaurant. We won't give the actual name. But if I can get this to pull up, this is something to behold here, okay? This was the owner of the restaurant. Look at it. You tell me that man can't make an enchilada right there. That guy is throwing down some enchiladas, all right? And then this is the best one. Whoever posted it on their story said, went out like a G. So they put it on Facebook. So anyway, that's home. That's home. All right, let's get everybody's list real quick. Let's start with you, Jacob. The suspense is killing Emilio over there. So who are the top 5 on your list? And again, just to mention the criteria here, all right, the 5 most important Packers for the 2025 season. Go ahead, Jacob.
Sorry. Respect on just said democracy manifest. But he's like, democracy manifest, way.
We need that sound drop, by the way. Democracy manifest.
I'm enjoying a succulent dish, a Chinese meal. Get your hands off my. All right. Anyways.
Oh, God.
That is one of the best clips of all time. I would just say that. All right. My top 5, and I would say in any order, but stop. Respect oranges. Love is number 1. I think, like we said, that's a given. You plug him in. We went over that as to why. Field general, coming back from injury, whole offense runs through him. We get that, right? That's kind of a given. My second one, I'm surprised that nobody else really talked about is Edgerrin Cooper. Obviously, it was in the mentions there, but a guy that was that talented, that quickly, and was so multi-faceted, whether it be in the coverage game, rushing the passer, playing the run, sifting through blocks, absolutely just playing out of his mind and doing that all with, again, a coaching staff that I thought was reluctant and really letting him go out of the gates. And it took him a while to find his feet, find the snaps. And I think now it's the point where I would really love to see, and I believe it was maybe Emilio that highlighted a fun fact that they only had one game that Quay and Edge got to start together and play through. And that to me is scary to think about.
It was the Philly playoff game. That was it.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously we wish that went a different way, but that to me gets me more excited than all you can eat buffet night at the club. So I'll move on to number 3. Jayden Reed, to me, that seems like there had to be some sort of leader in the wide receiver room with Watson on the sideline, even though I think he is probably the biggest leader. It's as far as just being more vocal. I think Jayden Reed took that upon his shoulders after this last offseason, especially with all the, if you want to call it drama. I think that more fueled him to say, all right, you guys want to talk smack about me and think we don't have a great squad. Him taking it upon himself to actually mention the rookies, to mention how he is mentoring them, how LaFleur mentioned him as well. I think that he has now all of a sudden solidified himself as the leader in the wide receiver room. You could argue me about that, but I just feel like that is what it seems to me. The next 2 are our last free agents, X and Jacobs. I just feel like X deserved the leadership that he gained leadership. He wasn't just given it. That he came in, he talked a big game, and then what did he do? He had like 5, 6, whatever it was, games with interceptions, ended up playing out of his mind, helped that secondary in a way that I don't think gets talked about enough with the lack of Jair. It's why I didn't include Jair on this list, because typically you've got to play a certain amount of games and you got to not have conduct detrimental to the team. Not saying that's exactly what happened, but when I'm making a list of the top 5 Packers, I want a guy that can be on the field and isn't going to attract drama away from the team's goal. The last one being Josh Jacobs. At the end of that season last year, I think with how vocal he was and where he straight up said, we need a leader in the wide receiver room. We need a next. We need somebody that's going to take the reins, and him changing that run game in Green Bay for the first time that I've seen in a long time, with an offensive line that, don't get me wrong, I think played pretty darn well, but I think has a lot of room for improvement. If we see him even take a step, that offensive line take a step, Love is the field, general that we need, I think the sky's the limit. So that is why they're my top 5. Love, Cooper, Reed, X, and Jacobs. So how's that, Emilio?
Sounds like you made it up on the spot. But I would like to go at the end so I could accumulate everybody's ideas.
Tim, go ahead with your list.
I will pass, sir. You're muted, Tim.
Muted.
My bad. J Money, number 1, spoiler alert. No big surprise. Number 2 on my list. And yeah, you're probably going to see more defensive guys than offensive guys. But Zach Tom would be number 2. Kind of reiterating my point about Elgton Jenkins at center and, depth issues possibly there. I think Zach Tom's the most valuable offensive lineman that we have right now. Number 3, Jacob stole my thunder a little bit. Cowboy Coop, baby. Edrin Cooper. Year 2, looking for him to break out, really hit his stride. If he doesn't have a sophomore slump and he just continues to be a freak, we're looking at a generational talent, and we're looking at depth in the middle of that defense for the foreseeable future. So I think Edrin Cooper is very, very important. Number 4 on my list, Carrington Valentine.
Ooh, I like that.
With the fading question mark, but still a question mark with Jair, because even if Ja plays, we know like how many games. We need a guy that can step up, and I think Carrington Valentine is going to prove how important he is to this defense this year. Number 5 was kind of a tie for me between offensive and defensive player. The defensive fan went with Devontae Wyatt. We've got a new D-line coach. We talked about Coach Covington, the departure of TJ Slayton, the fact that we kind of stood pat in that D-line room. I think Devontae Wyatt stepping up, getting over the hump, really making some progress this year would be absolutely huge for this defense. And then my counterpoint to that would have been, of course, the one, the only, Mr. Yak himself, Tuck Norris. I think Tuck Norris is definitely super important, and this could be the year. Like, I don't think he needs to have a breakout season for Packer fans. We're familiar with his game, but I think this might be the year that Tuck Norris puts the NFL on notice, man. And we got a new premier tight end that's going to be a star in this league. My honorable mentions are Ja Money and Quay Walker. That's my list. Go ahead and steal them, Emilio. Let's go.
After Clay.
I'm good. I have no list. You think I prepared for this? I literally just threw my man's list together and said, hey, let's go over it. So,
lucky. Yeah. See, the only one I would add, I think I would accumulate all of y'all's. The only one I would probably add would just be Matt LaFleur. I really just kind of want to see him reel the whole team in, bring everybody together. Listening to Love the Star, they were talking about how McCarthy's practices. He just had the guy, Brian Brodish, had a lot of beef with the way McCarthy ran the practices. They weren't hard on the guys. They weren't pushing them. They weren't trying to get them better. He said, however much I had issues with Jason Garrett, he ran a practice and he got the best out of these guys. I think Matt LaFleur can maybe, tone that up a little bit and then keep your head together on game days when you need to be, you got somebody helping you with the clock. Let's be smart with that, smart with your timeouts, really get into the flow of a game. I think that really could springboard not only the offense with all these guys who are expecting to take a step, but contain and help the defense so that they can be their best self as well.
Yeah, I think of all the entire list that you guys put together, maybe not. I don't know if I would say most important, but the one that really comes to mind for me or sticks out is what Tim said about Carrington Valentine. I don't think people realize just how well he played last year. And if Jair is not here, that's going to be that dude that's going to get thrust right into the spotlight. And I think he's ready for it. I'm not saying he's going to play at peak Jair level, but I think he will really, really surprise people. Another year under Coach Hafley, if there's one player you pick from that DB room and go, man, that guy took the coaching and made the most of it, I think it was Carrington. I really do. Yep. Passer rating when targeted was I think it was the best on the team, if I remember correctly. Maybe second best only behind Ja. And then, of course, the interceptions, his ability to read and react, even in man coverage, and find the ball. And when it was thrown to – he just has this ability to, okay, my guy's not really a threat right here. Let me look for some work while not leaving my responsibility. And that's something that's hard to coach. It really is.
It's like freelancing without freelancing, right? That was one of the knocks on Ja, right? He would just leave the man, pass him off. How do you pass a guy off and you're in man-to-man coverage? You can't do that. So, I think you're right. And, to the point we talked about the other day, we talked about it looks like Jair on one side, Keyshawn on the other, and they're trying to do Nate Hobbs in the slot, right? Okay. Well, if there's no Jair, then you're right, Clayton. You put CV over there opposite of Keyshawn and you run Nate Hobbs in the slot and we don't miss a beat and you just keep going forward.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, we got a couple of things marked here. I seen you just threw in. Coach Lynn said, I don't know if you guys seen, but Mercedes Lewis was on with Kay Adams earlier, either today or yesterday, and it sounded like Matt LaFleur was interested in bringing him back, and they were in good communication. He said they're really good friends, but it sounds like Goody shot that down. So Matt wanted Mercedes back. No surprise there. Mercedes he's a freaking pro's pro, right?
And in the great words of the great Emilio,
he can block. That's a fact.
You're not going to find another player that's more equipped to show Tucker Kraft how to take his blocking to the next level and how to be a pro. I think he's got the record, right, in terms of how many snaps played or maybe games played by a tight end at the NFL level. But Coach Lynn said, would y'all be interested in bringing Mercedes Lewis back to free up Kraft to get the ball more in 12 personnel? I'm kind of torn on it, Coach, because Mercedes' best ball is way behind him.
Yeah.
I immediately, when I seen that clip, before I heard it and I seen it come across Twitter, I thought, as a coach, oh my God, that would be great, right? So as a player, so much I'm not as excited about. And the reality is you got to take Luke Musgrave off the field if you're going to have Mercedes Lewis on the field. And
progress stopper, right?
Right, progress stopper. It's a second-round pick, and you guys know I'm still a little skeptical on Luke Musgrave. I was the president of the Luke Musgrave fan club, right, when we drafted him. I had him extremely high on my draft board that year. I was fired up about it. I'm not going to BS anybody. He has not lived up to those expectations for me, but injuries have been a problem, and it's not because he's not tough. The guy had internal bleeding and finished a freaking game, so I don't want to hear that, But, what do you guys think about that question there? Emilio, you were starting to say something, I believe. There.
Yeah, well, no, I was just saying, I did see that, but it's tough because if we're bringing him back, it's like you have an extra tackle over there, right? And I like your take, Clay. If you could bring him back and have him be a player coach, but you have to give up a roster spot for that, right? He can't go on the practice squad or anything. So if anything, if he doesn't end up getting a team, maybe like a late season signing or something, if there's an injury or chase it down. But you do kind of become a little one-dimensional in the fact of, hey, they know we're going to run it, or at least, you're going to keep them in pass blocking. But again, you could use it to your advantage. And, the 3 games you use it all year, leak him out, get a couple of passes, quick touchdown when you need it, something like that. So I think that's a possibility. Just the numbers and, time, I don't think is going to link up.
Yeah. From the tribe of Yehuda says, I believe Tuck will have 11 to 12 tuds this year, over 950 yards receiving this year. The man is a warrior. I wouldn't be surprised. Tucker Kraft is a real deal. Like, if you increase his touches, I'm telling you, he was on pace to outperform Brock Bowers and the top tight ends in the league. And it's kind of like the Rashan Gary conversation. Like, if they're not giving him playing time, that's not on him. He can only handle when he's on the field. Tucker Kraft maximized his opportunities on the field, no doubt. So really, really like that take there.
That was the one I had hardest leaving off my top 5, just because I thought that there had to be more of a presence in the wide receiver room because there's so many more guys that don't necessarily have that leadership or what the pecking order is. Whereas I think it's quite clear in the tight end room who's the boss dog.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says honorable mention for me is McManus. He has lived up to how he kicked last year. Could not agree more. Couldn't agree.
Good
point. And that's hopefully we're in less of those situations where we're depending on his leg at the end of the game to get us home, Hopefully we're winning by 10 or more, this year. But I agree. What a great point by 2-0 for this. McMoney, baby. The X factor. I love it.
Right. Eric Sutherland pointed out Sam Brown Jr., 6'2", 41-inch vert, and ran a 4.440.
He had a 9.89 RAS as well.
Oh, man. So that's someone who's they'll probably want to stash him on the practice squad, I would imagine. So the fact that he was available to all 32 teams tells me probably a reasonable chance they can make that happen for sure. Let's see here. 2-0 for this says apparently Sam Brown was ahead of Golden in the depth chart at Houston. How the turntables. That's a good nugget there. Appreciate it. And then Greg Rice says compare Jacobs' yards until first contact to Saquon. Somebody mark that. Does anybody know?
Jacob gets
contacted. I thought you meant Jacob.
Oh, I was going to say, Jacob gets contacted immediately once he gets off the field. Man.
It's a good point.
I think he meant the average depth before contact is made, meaning Saquon got to run through bigger holes and didn't have to initiate contact until much, whereas Jacobs was getting it in the backfield and still coming forward with positive yardage.
Got you. That makes sense. That Eagles front for sure.
Just to put a light on my boy, I like how a lot of people are writing off Bullard. Hope he goes off this season. I do too, because Jacob gave up on him, so I will stand on the Bullard fan club.
All right. All right, you get Bullard. I'll take Glover.
No way. Nope, they're both mine. Sorry.
Can I just say something? Can I be a little controversial here? And listen, there is nothing factual to back this up. I'm just saying something that popped in my mind earlier today. The fact that it seems like Javon Bullard is not in the hunt to start at slot, and it doesn't seem like at this point, it's really early, he's in the hunt to start at safety over Evan Williams as well. Okay. Emilio, who did we see at dinner when we were in Green Bay?
Yeah, Bull. Yep.
Who was he with that night?
His agent.
I'm just saying. The guy. Who is that agent specifically?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Drew Rosenhaus.
Drew, right? Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not trying to stir anything up, but that's what popped in my mind earlier today. I'm going Clayton. God, I hope this isn't one of those things like, hey, if my guy isn't going to be in the hunt to start, then I want to go somewhere
I feel like it's so early, not even off the rookie deal. Like, what are we doing, man?
And it can't. It can't be. It's got to be that, Emilio. It's got to be way too early. I'm just saying that popped in my mind, and I went, I don't even want to go.
It did too.
Did it for you too? Did it really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Listening to Ryan's pod, and that triggered. He was talking about Bullard or something. I was like, dude, I cannot believe he was sitting at that. All right, we didn't know who the other guy was, but asking him about getting linked back up with Nazir, and what do you think the defense is going to be this year, and all that. Man, I would just hate that.
Yeah, if Greg was asking where with us, we went to dinner Wednesday night. Me, Emilio, Tim, and the ladies went to dinner in downtown Green Bay, and it was the spot. There were players everywhere. Desmond Howard was there. The whole ESPN crew. Schefter, Laura Rutledge, Peter Schrager, Greeny, everyone was there. And sure enough, right next to us, Drew Rosenhaus sits down at a table with another guy. We didn't know who it was. And Javon Bullard comes in and sits down and eats dinner with him. So I couldn't stop thinking about that earlier today. I'm going, I hope this doesn't turn into something. And I don't think it will. So I'm just, again, we are not pundits. We are not media members. We are fans. And it's okay as a fan to talk about the things you worry about, hopefully. And that was something that did cross my mind earlier today, because I do think he played pretty damn good in the slot. I think he's one of the reasons that the run defense got so much better by being so physical in the slot. I don't want to see him go anywhere, but man, it popped up in my mind. So let's get to the Patreon questions. Again, the best way to support the show and what we do here at Packers Total Access is to join the Patreon community. You can do that by scanning the QR code in the upper right or going to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It gets you access to all of our chats, including questions for the show. And it also gets you entered into giveaways. We're going to be doing a giveaway this Saturday for an autographed Lucas Van Ness rookie card. Basically how it works is if you're a member of the $3 tier, we put your name on the wheel, spin that sucker, and whoever it lands on will get that card mailed right to your front door. Just a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. Damon Redwine says, something I noticed after yesterday's video, this was 3 days ago, by the way, in regards to offense/defensive scoring per quarter, I feel overwhelmingly we could defer the ball and opt to receive the opening kickoff. NFL teams average 10 to 11 drives per game, with our run-heavy offense slowing the game down. Let's round that down to 10, averaging that down to 5 per half. Receiving the ball first to start the game means logically we should average 3 drives in the first quarter and 2 in the second, with opponents being reversed. With opponents receiving the ball first in the second half, we would average 2 drives in the third quarter and 3 in the fourth, with opponents being reversed. What that tells you is we should be scoring more points in the first than the second and more points in the fourth than the third, with our defense allowing less points in those quarters, all of which the numbers seem to agree with. Great breakdown there, Damon. I like the way you're thinking, man, because, again, when we do some of these breakdowns, we can look at it from 1,000 different angles, right? And it's going to take way too long on the show, but I like the way you broke that down for sure, man. Now, CJN says, with Ja coming back and they work on this contract, hopefully, is there any benefits to either side if things get done post June 1st or not a concern? The benefit, regardless, is you can designate him to a post June 1 cut if you want to move on beyond June 1, which we're coming up on it now here in a couple of days now, right? But to me, that's just you're kind of splitting hairs at that point, CJN. You either want him on the team or you don't. The Packers want him on the roster. Now that they've determined they cannot get what they feel like is good value for Jair in a trade, they want him on the roster, but they want him on the roster at his number. And the reality of the situation, in my opinion, is Jair now, he holds the cards in terms of – here's what Ja wants. Ja wants to play – he wants to take it down the sideline, right, and the ball to a kid wearing 23. He wants to play for the Packers at the contract he's got. That's the way I feel. I could be wrong. I feel like that's what he wants. But, however, if they're going to try to force him to restructure that contract, I think he would rather play somewhere else. That's me personally. I could be wrong on that, okay? Now, with that being said, he holds all the cards to get both of those things. If he shows up to camp, to mini camp here in June, he forces their hand. They're not going to let him on that practice field without a new deal unless they come to a decision in-house. All right, we will have you at that number. It just seems like Goody's pretty dug in, and we know Goody usually don't go back on these type of things, right? Mm-hmm. So right. I feel like
they might tweak
Jair does hold the cards there in that regard. So go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say at most they might tweak that offer, maybe
meet in the middle, right?
Yeah, like, maybe you might get a counter from Ja's camp and then a match from the Packers, but I don't know how likely that is.
Did you see what happened here, Tim?
What is this?
Emilio just put a picture of some stripes that he got a picture offline. You know,
no shot. Come on,
I promise he didn't do that. You're gonna try to convince me your little snapper did that? Emilio? Come on, no way. So
anyway. That took me an hour and change. Come on now.
I bet it did. How much you charge those poor people?
Well, too much.
Too much.
Double cut, double stripe.
I bet it was worth every dime to walk out on that back deck on Saturday morning, sip that coffee, and go, "Damn, man, it looks good, right?"
Yeah, it took you an hour. That took you an hour to make that on AI. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. My first time using AI, so I hope it turns out.
Deep fake for picks.
Excelio, you're using deep fake picks.
Thanks, Holmes.
Unbelievable. All right. Anyway, back to what we were trying to cover. That was pretty damn good. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, that was brilliant. By the way,
I appreciate it.
Anything else to what CJN asked here in terms of post June 1? Because what it comes down to is like you can absorb the majority of the cap hit this year, or you can spread it out over 2 years, right? It's essentially what it is. It kind of flips in terms. I don't think it's an issue because the Packers are 10th in cap space last I checked across the league. They got like 28 million in cap space. They don't need the cap space right now, you know. And if they did, they could just convert some salary to bonus on another person's contract and free that money up immediately. So it's more about getting him at the dollar they want him at.
Right. Because weren't they talking about eventually maybe having to adjust the salary cap just because they hate that it's getting cash over cap and wanting to get that reeled back in a little bit? They don't want that to get out of hand like it's been.
Yeah, I saw something about that, and they're talking about getting rid of the void years, right?
Yeah, they're trying to basically. This has always been around, but teams are starting to really abuse it. They've been abusing it for several years now, so they're trying to hone that in a little bit. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, we're just simply talking about cash over cap. You're choosing to pay someone cash in a signing bonus form so you can spread it out over the duration of the contract and even go to the extreme of tacking on voidable years. All 32 teams, to the best of my knowledge, have done that. So it's not like there's anyone who's innocent of this. It just seems like the league's starting to come together and go, is this really what we wanted this to be? And you know, something I learned from Andrew Brandt's podcast earlier today. I don't know if you listened to it or not, Emilio. Did you listen to Andrew Brandt's earlier?
I did not.
Really good. He also talked about, I didn't know this, you know, they talk about the players are getting 52%, I think it is, of the income that comes in for the league. He said that's not correct. That doesn't include suite sales. That doesn't include I can't remember if it's TV money or something. It was like two or three other aspects of the income. He said if you factor that in, it's actually closer to 42 than 52. So
they must be basing it off of just ticket sales, right?
It's just another example of we look at the players like these greedy bastards, and it's really not the case. Like everybody's clawing for as much as they can get, and the owners are definitely doing their share of manipulating the system. Go ahead, Tim. What were you trying to say, buddy?
No, I was saying they must be basing that off of like selected numbers, right? If it's a revenue share, it's probably based off of ticket sales or – I'm sure they get a cut of their merch, right? Your jersey's number one selling, you know, you probably get a revenue share, but that doesn't account for, like you said, 5, 6, 7, 10 other factors, you know?
Right. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. And again, thanks everybody for the Patreon question. Emilio, thank you for Googling that image.
I added you some more just to show you. There you go.
Oh my God.
So I've done this before too. This is really cool. All you got to do in Grok is give me multiple angles. That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, get this off of here, man. Unbelievable. I want to know who was looking out that window going, why is that guy in my front yard? Who is he? Why is he taking
I just borrowed a yard. Yeah.
So I told you to cut the grass, get in your truck, and leave.
Exactly. Actually, I'm thinking he's saying that guy didn't cut our grass. Why is he stopping in front of the yard taking pictures? That's what I think is going on. What do you guys think about the cash over cap? Do you think it's something that should be changed? Jacob, how do you feel about it? Because you've done a pod with me for 2 years now. I think I've been pretty clear and vocal about how that operates. Do you like it, or do you think they should get it back to no, you can't put voidable? If you took the voidable years aspect off, I think it would stop, or at least slow down to a minimum, you know?
Yeah, I go back and forth. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm also not an economist. I'm also not a linguist. I'm also not a scientist. So I don't know. Honestly, the contract stuff always kind of makes my head hurt a little bit, but I just don't like the idea of those voidable years. It just seems to like push the can down the road, and then relying so much on caps rising and, like you said, different deals that come in and all that kind of stuff. I would just rather it be a little more cut and dry, a little more black and white. And again, I've said this for years on this podcast. If I could change every single contract to a pure incentive-based contract, that's what I would rather do. But I know that the CBA, I'm sure, would never really allow that, or at least have half of it guaranteed, half of it incentive-based, to the point where, like, if you're Rashan Gary and you get 12 sacks and you've got a 20% hit rate and you've got this many pressures, then, dude, I want to pay you like $10 million more than what your normal contract would be if you just agreed to play on it. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like per year. I want to give you incentive per year to go out there every single time and not get comfortable because you got a 4-year contract and you're like, well, I made my incentive now. I got my nest egg. I'd rather it be more of like a year by year. Let's see, what have you done for me lately thing.
Yeah. You know what I noticed about Jacob? When I don't know what it is with your camera, dude, but it the way it's zooming in and out. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
it makes me feel like it makes me feel like he slipped me a gummy or something. Like I'm over here. Like, why is it? What in the world is going on with Jacob?
It's apparently like a gamer video thing.
Oh, you
I
got
don't
that
know.
fancy stuff over there, huh?
I hate it. I'm gonna get a new one.
Oh, look at me.
I went to Kmart and got top dollar. Good for you, Jacob. Jeez.
Okay, Kmart's a lot of my league, man.
He said my neighbor will never know.
Pronounced came apart. Okay.
I'll tell you something else that's happened contractually here lately too. You guys heard about Shamar Stewart still holding out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, boy, we dodged a bullet there. It sounds like the Bengals are trying to create. I don't know if it's new. It's probably not new, but they're really trying to hammer down on putting. For those who don't know, the contracts, they're structured in a way now with the rookies that it's already set on the skeleton of the contract. But it's how much is going to be guaranteed, what's the lingo in the contract, and what's going on with Shamar Stewart is they're trying to put something in there that the contract or a large portion of it will not be guaranteed if something happens off the field, whether it's conduct, whatever. And we don't know all the details of what's going on behind the scenes there, but he's holding out in that regard. Another thing that happened, Tim, you know your boy Jaden Higgins?
Yep.
He just got I believe the first ever second-round pick fully guaranteed contract.
Wow.
So that's something that agents are starting to push for. So you got all these second-round picks that some of the second-round picks that still haven't signed, however many there are. They seen that come through with Jaden Higgins. Where did he go? Was it Houston?
He was early second round, right?
Houston. They
Houston.
took both of them.
Him and Noel.
So Houston said, we'll give it fully guaranteed for you. Let's get you into camp, right? And now all the other second-round picks that aren't signed are going, hold up. Whoa, stop. Yeah, I want mine guaranteed too. And these teams are going, just like Cleveland with the Deshaun Watson contract.
Right.
Damn it, Houston, what are you doing? Like, stick to the plan here. So you're starting to see that evolve a little bit.
I think it was a GM shuffle. They were talking about that, Clay. It was just like, the fact that, first round, obviously they're going to get their guarantees. And then everybody else, that's why 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 are all signed. And seconds are trying to get that first round money and at least guarantee it all the way through. And that's just something that's going to change as the game goes on. And it's just something they're going to keep, nagging at until it's third rounders that want to be, fully guaranteed. So I don't know when you stop that slide.
Right.
I was going to say one other question, just kind of wrapping up full circle of what we did earlier. So picking one person on the Packers, if you could guarantee him, a full, healthy, 100% ready to go season besides Jordan Love, who would that be? So you went over your top 5, but I'm saying just a completely 100% fully healthy season.
Fully healthy. So, wow.
Jair freaking Alexander.
I think that's a good one.
I like it, Tim.
Wouldn't it be cool to see him play 16 or 17 games? That would be awesome, right?
Right.
I'd love it.
For me, it's hands down Christian Watson. The things that Christian Watson does, the thing this offense does when Christian Watson is healthy, if we had him for a full season, I'm telling you, man, that dude, he really was turning the corner big time. And that's why I'm hoping we seen him on the practice field yesterday going through stretches, jog through, stuff like that. Guys, he looks ahead of schedule. And today, Tauscher was talking about it with Wildy, and they were kind of bickering back and forth a little bit on it. There's nobody else I'm rooting for more this year than Christian Watson to come back early, be fully healthy, and get the money he deserves. Because the fact that he's having to deal with this in a contract year absolutely sucks. And he's a leader in the locker room. Here's the other thing I want to say, and Tauscher pointed this out. Tauscher said there's nothing wrong with going away with a rehab, going out of doing your thing and with other trainers that you trust and you like and the team agrees to it. There's nothing wrong with that. He said Christian Watson is in Green freaking Bay, helping these rookies, going through the training there, the rehab, they're doing everything right. He's been the model Green Bay Packer. When Romeo Doubs had his little stint last year, Christian Watson defended him while also giving that brother love, like, hey, bro, straighten your ass up type thing.
Yep.
Like, he's the leader in that room. That's the guy that comes in.
Back in the day, they would call him a pros pro, right? That's a pros pro, right? Your favorite player's favorite player type of guy. And I think that's a great point, Clay. I really do. I think Scoot is certainly looks like he's in the best shape of his life and looks ahead of schedule. I can't wait to see them kind of like take the training wheels off and ease him into some activity here as we go forward. But I think you're right, man. He could come back early. That would be incredible.
The thought of him in the X, Golden in the Z and vice versa, and Reed in the slot, bro. And then you got Romeo Doubs rotating. I mean, all of them, it's just like, let's go.
Wicks, Williams, like we haven't even scratched the surface yet with that receiver.
Jacob, who were you going to say? Who's the injured player that or the player that you wish could be 100% healthy?
I would say right now would be Coop, just to have make sure that he's there for the solid season and just see what that does to the defense. But I did see an honorable mention to me would be freaking Marshawn Lloyd, because we don't even know what we got in that poor guy. Just cannot stay out of the freaking hospital. But yeah, that'd probably be my two.
Mine would probably be Musgrave, just so that we could see what would happen in the 12 personnel and really give him a good full chance of, what he's, because I got that from the Love of the Star podcast they were asking, but he was saying that Jake Ferguson, like having a tight end that can be physical like Kraft, imagine taking a little bit of weight off Kraft's shoulders and still being able to, run the offense, move the ball, get it up the field, have a vertical threat with that kind of size. I think that's something that, you won't have. It's a little bit different than Savion. You know what I mean? Even if you have that size and speed, but it's different coming out of a tight end than it is, wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I like that too.
Anything else, gents? We good?
I think we're good.
All right. Just need you guys to remember, you don't have to agree with it, but this is peak male performance right here. You hear me? That's that right there. That's a man.
That's a Taco Tuesday belly right there, baby.
I'm telling you, dude. I say it all the time. Me and Mandy walk into a restaurant we're trying new. I look around and I look in the back and I see people just a little overweight cooking. I go, we're in the right spot.
My dad's got that mustache.
What'd you say?
He knows his judo well.
There it is, eating a succulent Mexican meal.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, shout out to that unnamed restaurant. Hopefully everything. It's funny too. I was messaging with my sister. It's funny because we were supposed to go eat there last Sunday and I had to cancel. And I said, I guess I ain't gonna get to try it. And she messaged me back a few hours later, said, nope. And it literally on Facebook, they posted and said, hey, we had a slight mishap here at the restaurant, but we're open until 10. They were back at it. I was like,
that's awesome.
As Mayor Lou Brown, or I'm sorry, Coach Lou Brown said, I think that was his name in Major League. It's my kind of tea, Charlie. It's my kind of tea. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Appreciate everybody. 7 p.m. Central as of right now, 6:30, 7 p.m., somewhere around that time. Y'all like this time? Are we good? That working out pretty good?
Ish.
All right, cool. We seem to go a little longer each time too. Pretty soon it ain't gonna matter, right? So
we'll just be on from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah,
in the future, right? 24-hour stream, right?
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Again, check out the Patreon group. Appreciate everybody over there supporting the channel. We'll be back tomorrow and enjoy the new outro. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
I don't know. We'll take over the world.
And we go.
We out.
Bye, guys.